Dear learners, welcome again to the course. In the last two lectures, we have installed R and RStudio. We have also seen different menus of R interface and RStudio. Why we are using RStudio as an interface of R. I hope you all are now comfortable with the interface of RStudio. And still, if you have any questions or queries regarding the installation of both the software, and please don't hesitate in asking or sharing the questions in the discussion forum. So this whole course is about the analysis of research publication data, and this data looks like this if you see on my slide. So this is just a sample kind of a data set what we will be handling. Here if you see, this is a text data. So this is a text data. Then this is also a kind of text data. Then this is a number. Then this is text. Then this is also number, 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 number. Okay. So if you see in this particular data set, though this is not a complete data set, but we will be handling the data which look like to this particular data set. Therefore, it is very important to know how R understand this particular text data and or number data or any other data format. The whole concept of data analysis in R is based on one concept, which is an object. Everything in the R is considered as an object. Okay. So what an object is? So this one column is an object. So this is an object. This is also an object. This is object. So these all are individual objects are there, and each object have their like name. So this particular object is author. Author is in one object whose details are author details. Then there is another object which is title, which contains the details of the title of the research paper. So this is how you see there are different types of objects are there. Of course, this whole data set is also an object. Okay. So there are like objects, author is there, object title is there, object year is there, and then this whole data set is also an object. We'll see each of the object one by one, then you will have a more clarity about what exactly this object is. So for the simpler understanding of what an object is, you can consider each object as a container where the values are stored, and then we do the analysis on these containers. Okay. We can say that this is a container 1 which store the text data. Okay. Then this is another container 2 which also store a text data, but this particular container store the title details. Okay. And this is just one row of a data. Okay. We will be handling thousands of row for the analysis of this data. So it's very important to know how the values are stored in this container. Okay. In this particular lecture, I'll be discussing about all these different kinds of containers and how we will be using these containers for the analysis. Syntax for creating an object in R is this. So on the left hand side, this object name will come, and then this symbol will come, less than sign, hyphen, and then the value, what we are assigning the value to the object. So this is the whole syntax of creating an object in R. Let us now see some example how we can create our own object in R. So here if you see on this particular part, NPTEL, and then that's assignment operator, and then we have the value 14. So it's in the same format. So NPTEL is an object name, then this assignment operator, then the value. Okay. So what exactly it is doing is R is assigning the value 14 to object NPTEL. Okay. If we run this, okay, and now if I see the value is 14. Okay. So this is how an object can be created. So it's very simple, the creation of an object in R. Now let us see another example of text data. Okay. So this is like a number, Now we will see how we can create an object which have a character or text data. So for that we have to keep the whatever the text we want to assign to the object, it should be in the double inverted comma. So here the NPTEL, we are taking the same object NPTEL, and then we are assigning this value Mohit Garg, and if I run this, okay, so if I now Mohit Garg is assigned to NPTEL. Let us take one more example of assignment and another value to object NPTEL. So if I do this, now if I run this NPTEL, it's showing true. So what this true is and how this character is assigned, we'll see little later during this lecture. But if you have noticed one thing here is that whenever we have assigned a value to the object NPTEL, it has assigned the same value. Okay, so this is very important, you have to remember during the analysis. As soon as you will assign the value to the object, it will show the most current value, it will not show the previous value. Okay, so earlier we have assigned 14 to NPTEL object, but now it's showing true because presently NPTEL object name has this true value. So this you have to be very careful whenever you are doing the analysis, that sometimes you have to create many objects. Okay, so also you have to remember here one thing, that I am writing the code here and then I am running the command. Okay, so you have either of the option, either you can write here and then you can select that command and then you can click on this run command, or what you can do is you can start writing here and then simply give the value. Okay, so it's totally up to you how you do it, but I recommend that it's always good thing that whatever the command and whatever the code you are writing, always write here and save it, so that later whenever you are doing this analysis, this code will be saved to you and you will be knowing that what all commands you have given during that analysis. Okay, another thing if you have noticed here is that this particular line doesn't start with hash. Okay, so what this hash represent is that, so generally in programming language we need to write some comments during the code. Okay, this is just simply to remember that what exactly we are doing. If I do like this, say for example NPTEL 15, okay, and if I run this, now what could be the possible value of NPTEL? So I request you to pause the video here and just try to think what can be the value of NPTEL here. So if you see here, if I run this and if we check here NPTEL, the value is 14. Okay, so what exactly happened here is that R consider only this particular command as a valid command, and this command is also processed in R, but the value is not assigned. Okay, so this particular hash is very important whenever you are doing the large analysis. We will be seeing all those examples during when we will be doing the analysis of different examples. So this is very helpful. So I recommend that whenever you are doing the analysis, you always use this interface for coding and then use this hash for commenting, for that like you have declared this variable, what this variable is, if you have put, if you have done any operation, what that operation is. Okay, so there are some guidelines and restrictions are there which to be followed when you are creating any object in R. So the first guideline is that whenever you are creating an object, it should be start with either letter or a dot. What exactly it is? Other than that, if you use numbers or any other symbols in the starting for creating an object, it won't accept. Okay, so we will see the examples. Okay, for example, this is an object which I named it as an author. So and I just assigned 12. If I have to see the value of this author, the 12 value is assigned. If I have to do like this, for this. So it will say unexpected symbol in one this particular command. Okay. Also, if you see why I'm recommending that you always, whatever the command you are using, you do in this source code. This is because as soon as you do some mistake in writing the command, it will automatically show you that okay, there is something is missing. Okay, and because this is a valid object name, so it is not showing anything here. But if you see in this case, it is showing that this is an unexpected token, something is missing. But in case if you are doing here, like say for example this, in this case if you do in this console part, it will only show the error only when you run this command. Okay, so that is why the source quadrant is mostly preferred by the R users. Okay, let us take one more example of creation of an object that start with a dot. So if I do like this, and if I do this, and the value is assigned. So there is an object is created dot author which have the value 12. But instead of dot, if I use any other symbol, say for example I am using this. So see here it is automatically showing that something is wrong here. Okay, if I run this, it is showing unexpected. Okay, so this is the first guideline that you have to follow, that an object name can only be start with either letter or a dot. Also here I just recommend that always start the object name with a letter. Don't use dot, because dot are used to represent functions and methods. Always prefer that whenever you are creating any object in R, it should start with an letter. Okay. Now the second guideline is that after letter and period, now only numbers, letters or underscore or period can come. Okay, so after that no other thing can come, only these four things can come for creation or for creating an object. So let us take in some examples. So author 1 2 3, if I do here and if I assign some value, and if I do like this, if I run both this, and if I have to check the value, it's 12, and if I have to check this value, okay, so the value is assigned. Okay, so this is a valid object name. So this is the second guideline you have to remember whenever you are creating any object in R. Now the third is very important guideline whenever you are creating any object in R, is that is an object name is a case sensitive. Okay, so what exactly that case sensitive means? So a object name in uppercase and the object name in lowercase are different. Okay, if you are doing this like this, and if you are assigning some values 23, and if you are doing like this to here like 36, so if you run this here, now if you see the value author 23 and author 36. Okay, so that is why always remember that whenever you are creating any object, you follow one kind of writing style, either like all caps or lowercase or whatever the style you are using. Otherwise it will confuse you. Okay, just you see the example here, just I'll write AU, and you see there are lot many examples are there. Okay, so because I have created different object name in different writing style, and whenever like these are only 6 7 object name is there, but whenever these object name are like 20 or 30, it will be very difficult. Okay, it is always recommended that you use the object name in one kind of writing style. Now the next guideline for whenever you are creating an object name, what you have to remember is that there are some reserved words are there. So every programming language has there some reserved words. So it is recommended that never use those reserved words for creating your object. Okay, so if we see this particular example, so here else is a reserved word. Okay, so this is used where we used to do some conditional operations. So else, if we assign any value to else, it will say something like, it is automatically showing that something is wrong with this particular command. And if I run this, it is showing that unexpected else. Okay, so this is again another guideline which you have to remember whenever you are creating any object in R. Then the last guideline which you have to remember is that an object name could not have any special character like dollar, ampersand sign and all those things. Okay, so if you will be doing like this, author like this, if you are doing here, it will show the error that something is missing. But like if I run this, it is showing that something is wrong with this particular command. So these are all some of the guidelines which you have to remember whenever you are creating any object in R. I hope you have got the understanding of what an object is. Before going ahead, just give a try on these 4 object name. Please let us know in the discussion forum that what all these object name are valid and what all are invalid object names. Okay. So in these 3 examples, what I have done is that I have assigned the different kind of values to the same object name. Okay, whenever I am seeing the value of an object, it is showing the latest one. Okay, now let us take the example where what we will be doing, we will be creating the 3 objects with 3 different values. Okay, so this is one object, NPTEL 1 is one object. So if I am doing this, so this is done. If I do this, okay, and if I do this, so here we have created 3 objects, NPTEL 1, NPTEL 2, NPTEL 3, and these are a valid object name because it starts with a letter, then it has a letters, and then in the end it has numbers 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if we have to see the value, what we will do, we will simply see the value NPTEL. So we will do NPTEL and we can select any other one. So NPTEL 1. So NPTEL 1 has the value of 14. If we see from our eyes, these 3 objects have 3 different values. Okay, but we have to know that how R understand it. Okay, for that we have to use this class command. So what exactly it does? It gives the what exactly the type of value is assigned to this object. So if I do like this and run this, it's showing numeric. Okay, so this 14 is a numeric value which is assigned to the object. So NPTEL 2, if I check the class of this, it's a character. Okay, so it's correct that the NPTEL 1 is a object which has the numeric value, NPTEL 2 has a object which has character value. So here I'll request you again to pause the video here and then just you think in your mind what could be the possible class of NPTEL 3. Okay, if you have given the answer character, it will be wrong. Okay, so why? Let us see now here. So if we see here, okay, logical. So NPTEL 3 object has value true, which is a kind of logical type. Okay, now you will say in NPTEL 2 we have assigned the character value under the inverted comma, but here we have assigned a value which look like character, but we haven't mentioned those inverted commas. Okay, these true false are like logical values. We will see what these values are. Okay, so in R there are 6 kind of these value type which can be assigned to an object. Like one is numeric, then another is integer, third is character, fourth is logical, and there are 2 others are complex and row. Complex value type is basically used for doing the analysis on complex, and row is basically for row vector of bytes. Okay, but in this whole course we will be mainly doing the analysis on 4 kinds of value types, numeric, integer, character and logical. So I will be discussing only these 4 types in this lecture. So the first value type is numeric. Numeric is a value type which contains all kinds of numbers with or without decimal points. Okay, we will understand this by examples. Okay, so let us take the example. So I have created an object npt num, and if I am doing this, if I have to check the class, so it's saying it's numeric. Okay, so this is a decimal number. Then if I have assigned a negative decimal value, let us now just take, we will add this number in this. Okay, just to see that whether R has understood that this is a negative number. So if I do this, so it's showing 0.2. Okay, what exactly happened here is that, so we have assigned this value 1.2. Then in the second command, what we have done, we have add 1. Okay, so the answer will be minus 0.2. Okay, so that is why it has shown here minus 0.2. If we see the class of this npt num, here it's also numeric, and if I assign the 1, so again this is also a numeric. Okay, so a numeric is a value type where it can contains all kinds of number with decimal point or without decimal point. Now the second value type is integer, which is without any decimal point. Okay, so for assigning the integer value to an object, you have to explicitly mention L after the number. Okay, so like say for example, if I am doing this, I run, and now if I check the class of this, it will show integer. Okay, so if you don't write here L, like say for example, if you don't write L here, and if you do like this, and now if you see the class, numeric. Okay, so it is automatically changed to numeric. Okay, so if you are thinking that this one is a integer number, so you have to use this L after the number. So now let us take one example with a decimal number, and then we will convert it to an integer. Okay, so say for example, nptel int is our object name, and we are assigning the value 1.9. Okay, and then this, and if now we are converting it to as a integer. Okay, so if we see the class of this npt int, we have just the object name what we have created just now, it's numeric. Okay, this particular value is numeric, but we want to have value as a integer. Okay, so we will convert as a integer. So to convert that numeric value to integer, we will be using the command as integer. Okay, so we will convert this to as integer and this nptel, and we will run it again. And now if we see the value, so what could be the possible value? Okay, so you can just pause here and just you can think on what could be the possible value. So if you have thought this value is 1, so that is correct. Okay, so as a integer, it will not take the decimal value, it will take only integer part, it will ignore the decimal part. Okay, say for example, you have citations. Okay, you have a citation kind of a data, and that are all like 12, 13, 14, these are citations of an authors are going. Okay, and you are doing some analysis, some average, and also you want to say, so it like as a analysis it comes like something value like 5.9. Okay, now citations can't be in the decimal part, citations will be always like 5, 6, 7, 8. So it will be either 5, it will be either 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like that. That is why the understanding of integer becomes very important whenever you are doing the analysis. Now take the third value type, which is a character, which we have stored in the inverted comma. So let us take the example here. So character value type store the data which is in a character form. So let us understand this by an example. Here I am creating an object npt car which have a value welcome to MOOC. Okay, so if I run this, if I check the class of this, it will be character. Okay, now if I have to check the value of this, it will be npt car, and then if you run it, it's welcome to MOOC is assigned. But you might be thinking that why we are using the double inverted commas, what will happen if we don't use the double inverted comma. Okay, so let us take that example also. So if I do like this, of course if you are doing here, it won't allow, it will automatically show you that there is something is missing, but for the time being I am thinking that I am correct. I am ignoring this suggestion and I am running it that it is a correct. Okay. So if I run here is this, it will show that unexpected symbol. Okay. This is why whenever you are creating or whenever you are using any of the character data set, you have to use in the double inverted comma. Okay. Also, if you notice that if you see the output here for this particular object, it is showing the value is 1. Okay. But for if you see here, the output is also shown in the double inverted comma. Okay. So this is why whenever you are creating any object which to be assigned the character value, you have to use double inverted commas. Now move to our next value type, which is a logical. Okay. Logically, so logical value type is basically become important whenever we are doing the analysis. We won't be creating an object which have the logical value type during the analysis, but the output of some of the analysis can be logical. Okay. So let us now see some example of logical value type. Okay. So as word suggests, as you know that for the logical, the values can be either true or false. So that is why whenever you are declaring or getting the output as a logical type, you will get either T for true, or you will be getting F for false, or false as a full return. Okay. So if you see here, if I do like this npt log T, and if I check the value, it is true. So automatically just I have assigned the value only T in the caps, it automatically takes that is a true value, it's a logical kind of thing. And if I do like this, okay, so what will happen if I do like this? Okay, now see what will happen if I do like this, and if I run this, it is showing that object true not found. Okay, so for declaring the object under a logical value type, you have to use either T in the caps or true as a caps. If you write true in this way, it won't accept, it will think that you are assigning some character value to this object. Okay. So if I check the class, so it's logical. Okay. Let us see how this logical value type become important during the analysis. Say for example, I have created an object named as auth1 and assigned the value 14. If I run this, it will be this. So the value is assigned 14. Now if I have to see whether the value assigned to 14 is greater than 10, what we will do? We will run this. It is true. That means whatever the value auth1 has, it is greater than 10. Okay. If I have to check whether it is lower than 10, we will use the symbol lower than symbol, and if I run this, so it's false. Okay. So if we have to check whether the number is equal to 10, we have to use like this, and if I run this, it will say false. Of course 14 is not equal to 10. Okay. So that is why it's showing false. So if we see these three commands, only one is true, where it is showing that auth1 is greater than 10. Okay. And other those two commands are false. Okay. This we will see when we will doing the analysis, and it will be in various cases the output will be useful for doing the analysis. So this is a common problem whenever you are doing the data analysis. There will be some of the value will be missing, some of the value will be mentioned NA. Okay. So that is if you have a big data set, and if you want to check whether the data set has any NA values. Okay. Like say for example, I am assigning NA value to this auth2 NA. Now auth2 has the value NA. Okay. Now again here you will say that for NA also we haven't mentioned in double inverted comma. By default it is understandable that if NA is there, it is a not available, that missing value is there. Okay. Now if I have to check whether there is any NA is there in auth1, what we will do? We will use this command is.NA auth1, and it will be false because auth1 has the value 14. There is no NA is there. But for auth2, if we check, NA. Okay. So if you have a large data set, it will give you the idea that where NA values are there, where NA values are not there. This is how the understanding of logical value type helps during the analysis. If you have a large data set and if there are any missing values or NA values are there, so you can check the presence of NA values in a data set using the command is.na. So the last thing is that whenever you will be doing the analysis, you will be creating lot many objects. So to know what all objects you have created during the analysis, okay, so that you can do using the command ls. If you run this ls here, and if you run this, so it will display all the object name whatever you have created. Okay, so now for example, in these object name you want to remove these object name for any reasons. Okay, so what for that you can use the command rm, which helps in removing the object. Okay, so how you have to do that? It's very simple. You have to use this rm, and under this you have to, like, say for example, I want to remove value object. Okay, if I run this, okay, and now if I do ls again to list all objects, it's showing that. Okay, so earlier if you see here value was showing, so earlier if you see the value was showing as 45, but now it's not showing. Okay, now say for example, if you want to remove all the objects, so for that you have to use what exactly it is doing. First ls will list all the objects and then rm will remove all those objects. So if I run this, now if I do ls, so now you will see there is no object name. Now if I do like this, there will be no auto suggestion will come. Okay, because I have deleted all the objects. Be very careful whenever you are removing the object's name using this command. Now you will be a little worried that how to remember all these commands. So you don't have to remember all these commands. So many of the commands are just straightforward. So if we see that for this particular task, what we have to do is we have to check, is there any NA is there in that particular data set. So if you see that particular command is also is.na. Okay, or if you see here, so this particular command we want to check the class, what type of value is there. So for that command is class. So in this lecture I have discussed about the object and how we can create an object in R. What are the things we have to remember whenever we are creating any objects in R? What are the different value type we can assign to the object? So we have mainly focused on 4 of the value type, that is numeric, integer, character and logical. I hope you get the understanding of creation of these value types in R. And here I request you to please create 2 objects. One is the object which store your name, and another object which store your pin code of your area. And please let us know these 2 objects in the discussion forum. We will be very happy to see what all objects you have created. In the next lecture, I will discuss about different data structures in R. Thank you. See you in the next lecture.